Gaidinliu, born January 26, 1915 in Manipur, India, died February 17, 1993, was one of India's renowned female revolutionaries. She carried out revolutionary activities in Nagaland to contribute to India's freedom struggle. Due to her courageous deeds, akin to those of Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, she was called the Rani Lakshmibai of Nagaland. When the British arrested her for her revolutionary activities, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru tried to secure her release after she had served several years in prison. However, the British refused, as they were greatly afraid of her and considered her a significant threat. Birth and nature. Gaidinliu was born on January 26, 1915, in the Western District of Manipur, India. From childhood, she exhibited an independent and self-respecting nature. At the age of 13, she came into contact with Naga leader Jadanang. Jadanang was actively working to drive the British out of Manipur. Before he could fully organize his movement, he was arrested and hanged by the British on August 29, 1931. Revolutionary life. After Jadanang's execution, the leadership of the freedom movement passed into the hands of the young Gaidinliu. Inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's movement, she declared that no taxes would be paid to the British government. She worked towards uniting the Naga tribes and took steps to form a united front against the British. Her charismatic personality and fearless nature led tribal people to view her as an all-powerful goddess. The execution of Jadanang had already created resentment among the people, and Gaidinliu directed this discontent toward the freedom struggle. At just 16 years old, Gaidinliu led an underground force of 4,000 armed Naga soldiers to confront the British army. She was highly skilled in guerrilla warfare and weaponry. The British regarded her as a dangerous and fierce leader, while people from all walks of life saw her as their savior. To suppress the movement led by Rani Gaidinliu, the British burned several villages to the ground. However, this did not dampen the spirit of the people. Armed Nagas openly attacked a government post of the Assam Rifles one day. Constantly shifting locations and launching guerrilla strikes against the British army, Gaidinliu decided to build a fortress large enough to house her 4,000 Naga companions. While work on this was underway, on April 17, 1932, the British army launched a sudden attack. Gaidinliu was captured. At the time of her arrest, she said, "I was like a wild animal to them, so a strong rope was tied around my waist. The next day, in Kohima, my younger brother Kushiyang was brutally beaten. In the freezing cold, our clothes were taken away, and we were left to shiver through the nights, but I did not lose my courage." Rani was imprisoned in Imphal jail, and charges of sedition were brought against her. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. The British fear in 1937, during Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's visit to Assam, he learned about Rani Gaidinliu's bravery and gave her the title of Rani of the Nagas. Nehru made great efforts to secure her release, but since Manipur was a princely state at the time, he was unsuccessful. The British still considered Rani Gaidinliu a significant threat and were terrified of her potential release. In 1947, after the country gained independence, Rani Gaidinliu was finally released from prison. Upon her release, she was given a grand welcome in Nagaland. After being freed, Rani spent some time resting. Later, she began playing a significant role in resolving the political and social issues of the tribes in her region. Rani sacrificed her youth for the freedom of this country, and this unparalleled sacrifice can never be forgotten. Her life will always inspire Indian women with patriotism. For her courageous contributions to the freedom struggle, she was honored with a copper plaque by the Prime Minister and awarded the prestigious Padma Bhushan by the President. Rani Gaidinliu was one of the women who endured long-term imprisonment during the struggle for independence. In 1932, at just 17 years old, she began her fight against the British. As a result, she was imprisoned. And it was only in 1947, when the country achieved independence, that she was released. Thus, from 1932 to 1947, Rani Gaidinliu remained behind the iron bars of a jail. Upon her release, her youth and beauty had been completely sacrificed to the steel confines of prison. In 1935, when provincial self-government was introduced in the country, most prominent leaders were released from jail. Due to Gandhi's efforts, many revolutionary women serving long sentences were also freed. However, Rani Gaidinliu was the only woman who was not released from prison. Jawaharlal Nehru visited her in jail and made relentless efforts for her release, even corresponding with British officials. During the Congress session in Alipore, Nehru passed a resolution demanding her release. However, all these efforts proved futile. Nehru felt immense pain in his heart over the fact that, despite his many efforts, he could not secure Rani Gaidinliu's release from prison. On one occasion, he said, rest of Nehru's quote needs to be provided for translation. That young, brave girl, driven by the fervor of her patriotism, had dared to challenge a mighty empire, yet she had to endure countless tortures and suffocating oppression. She could no longer breathe the fresh and pleasant air of the mountains. She would never roam freely on the mountain slopes and wild springs again. The little bird-like Gaidinliu Rani would sit quietly, imprisoned in darkness, alone in a small cell, utterly alone, silently enduring her suffering. The unfortunate truth is that India does not even know about this brave daughter of its land. The courageous daughter of India, the sacred child of the Naga Hills, whose every breath was imbued with the freedom of the mountain air, was remembered with love, respect, and sorrow by her people. One day, the whole of India would remember her, honor her, and open the prison gates to bring her out. Pandit Nehru made the above appeal to the British government, but it had no effect. The British did not release Rani Gaidinliu. On the contrary, the Viceroy imposed a ban on raising questions about Rani Gaidinliu's release in the Assam Assembly. This clearly demonstrated how terrified the British were of her. They considered her a dangerous rebel and were unwilling to take any risk by releasing her from prison. Rani Gaidinliu was one of the most formidable enemies of the British. Moreover, she had organized a massive revolutionary army of thousands of rebellious Nagas, which was also a staunch enemy of the British. The British forces were extremely frightened and terrorized by this. In her region, the Nagas held such deep reverence for Rani Gaidinliu that bottles of water touched by her were sold for 10 rupees at the time. The Nagas believed that merely drinking this water could cure illnesses. Rani Gaidinliu had an immense influence on her followers. Rani Gaidinliu passed away on February 17, 1993. Freedom fighters like Rani Gaidinliu are the unsung heroes of our struggle for independence, whose stories we often forget. Her courage, sacrifice, and patriotism teach us the immense price one must pay to achieve true freedom. It is our responsibility to share her story with future generations and honor her sacrifices. If you like this video, please share it as much as possible so that the inspiring story of Rani Gaidinliu reaches every Indian. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.